Sarah sat in her car outside the courthouse, her heart heavy with a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. Today was supposed to be the day she married the love of her life, Chris, a kind and charming man who had swept her off her feet with his wit and warmth. However, as the minutes ticked by and Chris failed to show up, Sarah's anxiety grew into a knot of dread in her stomach. She tried calling Chris, but his phone went straight to voicemail. Tears welled up in her eyes as she began to fear the worst. Was he having second thoughts? Had something happened to him? Sarah's mind raced with 1,000 possibilities until she heard a snippet of conversation from the adjacent parking space. A man in a chauffeur's uniform was speaking on the phone, his voice carrying over to Sarah's ears. "Yes, sir, I found the perfect candidate. She's waiting outside the courthouse right now. Just give me the signal, and we can proceed with the plan." Sarah's heart skipped a beat as she eavesdropped on the conversation, her curiosity piqued. Who were they talking about? What plan were they referring to? Unable to contain her curiosity, Sarah opened her car door slightly and strained to listen. The man continued, "She's perfect for the role. Just say the word, and I'll bring her in." Sarah's mind reeled with shock and confusion. Was this some kind of joke? Was she being pranked on her wedding day? Trembling with both fear and resolve, she stepped out of her car and approached the man, her voice shaking as she spoke. "Excuse me, who are you talking about? What plan are you discussing?" The man turned to her, a look of surprise crossing his face before he composed himself. "I'm sorry, ma'am. This is a private conversation. It's none of your concern." Sarah's eyes narrowed as she confronted the man. "It is my concern if you're talking about me. Who are you working for? What is this about a short-term marriage contract?" The man hesitated for a moment before sighing and relenting. "Fine. My boss is a billionaire who needs a temporary wife for business reasons. He promised me a hefty sum if I could find someone willing to sign a contract to be his wife. It's just a business arrangement for a year, nothing more." Sarah's mind raced as she tried to process the information. A billionaire in need of a temporary wife? It sounded absurd, but at that moment, Sarah's heart felt shattered by Chris's absence and the betrayal of her wedding day. With a mix of defiance and desperation, she made a split-second decision. "I'll do it," she said, surprising even herself with her own words. "I'll sign your contract and be this billionaire's temporary wife. Take me to him." The man's eyes widened in disbelief, but he quickly composed himself and gestured for Sarah to follow him. As they entered a sleek black limousine parked nearby, Sarah's mind whirled with uncertainty and a strange sense of determination. Little did she know that this impulsive decision would lead her down a path she could have never imagined. The limousine pulled up to a luxurious mansion, and Sarah was escorted inside by the chauffeur. As she entered the opulent living room, her eyes fell upon a man seated on a plush sofa, his gaze fixed on her with a mix of surprise and intrigue. "Ah, you must be the prospective candidate," the man said, rising to his feet. "I must say, I didn't expect you to be so willing." Sarah squared her shoulders and met the man's gaze, her voice firm. "I'm here to sign your contract and be your temporary wife. Let's get this over with." Sarah found herself in the opulent mansion with Mark, her accidental husband. She couldn't shake off the surreal feeling surrounding her. She was living a life that seemed like a dream, but it was a dream she couldn't wake up from. Mark, a reserved and enigmatic man, preferred his privacy, and they had separate bedrooms in the mansion. Despite the peculiar circumstances of their marriage, Sarah found herself drawn to Mark's quiet strength and kindness. Over time, she discovered a depth to him that she hadn't expected, and a bond began to form between them. As days turned into weeks, Sarah's life underwent a drastic change. She found herself adapting to the luxurious lifestyle of the mansion, surrounded by all the comforts money could buy. Mark, although distant at first, gradually opened up to her, sharing stories of his past and his aspirations for the future. One evening, as they sat together by the fireplace, Sarah turned to Mark with a mixture of gratitude and vulnerability in her eyes. Mark's gaze softened as he reached out to hold her hand. "Sarah, in the midst of all the chaos and uncertainty, you've brought light into my life. I may have entered into this marriage as a business arrangement, but along the way, you've become so much more to me than just a temporary wife." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she realized the depth of her feelings for Mark. In the midst of loss and upheaval, she had found a sense of belonging and love in the most unexpected of places. As they sat together in the quiet warmth of the mansion, Sarah knew that their accidental marriage had led them on a journey of healing, growth, and newfound love, a journey that neither of them could have predicted, but one that had brought them together in the most extraordinary of ways. Mark was the CEO of a successful tech company, and his days were often consumed by meetings, phone calls, and urgent emails. He was respected by his employees for his leadership and dedication, but few knew much about his personal life. One of the most closely guarded secrets was his marriage to Sarah, a vibrant and caring woman who supported him in every way possible. One afternoon, while Mark was buried in a pile of reports, Sarah decided to surprise him with lunch. She arrived at the office with a homemade meal, hoping to spend a few moments with him. As she approached the reception desk, she was greeted by his assistant, Emily, who did not recognize her as Mark's wife. "Hi, I'm here to see Mark," Sarah said with a warm smile. Emily, busy and slightly frazzled, looked up briefly. "Do you have an appointment?" Sarah's smile faltered slightly. "No, I just brought him some lunch. I'm his wife, Sarah." Emily's eyes widened with realization and embarrassment. "Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Thompson. Let me just check if he's available." She quickly dialed Mark's office, but the response was not what Sarah had hoped for. "He's in a meeting right now," Emily said apologetically. "Would you like to wait, or should I take the lunch to him?" Sarah sighed, disappointment washing over her. "No, it's okay. I'll head back home. Just let him know I stopped by." With a heavy heart, Sarah left the office. As she crossed the busy street outside, her mind was preoccupied with thoughts of Mark and their brief, missed connection. She didn't notice the speeding car until it was too late. The screech of tires and the sickening thud drew the attention of passers-by, and within minutes, an ambulance was on the scene. Sarah was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Mark was informed of the accident just as his meeting ended. His heart raced as he drove to the hospital, fear gripping him like never before. At the hospital, the doctors informed him that Sarah had lost a significant amount of blood and urgently needed a transfusion. Fortunately, Mark's blood type matched hers. He didn't hesitate, agreeing to donate immediately. After the transfusion, Mark was handed Sarah's belongings by a nurse. Among them was a necklace with a pendant that caught his eye. It was a simple, elegant piece, but what stood out was the familiar design. Sarah had been in the hospital for several days, her recovery slow but steady. Mark, unable to shake the feeling of familiarity the pendant had evoked, spent countless hours by her side, lost in thought. The memories from his childhood began to surface, vivid and poignant. One evening, as he sat next to Sarah, Mark was transported back to when he was 5 years old. He remembered a car ride with his parents and his twin sister. His mother, with her gentle smile, had handed him a small pendant on a delicate chain. "This is to protect you," she had said, fastening it around his neck. "Whenever you feel alone, this will remind you that we are always with you." Mark and his sister each received a pendant, identical in design and imbued with the love and protection of their parents. Tragically, not long after, Mark's parents had died in a car accident, leaving him with only the pendant and memories of their love. When Sarah finally returned home, Mark couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. As they sat in the quiet of their living room, he held up the pendant. "Sarah, where did you get this?" Sarah's eyes softened as she took the pendant from his hand. "My mother gave it to me," she said. "She told me it was for protection. She gave it to me the day our family went for a drive, my parents and my twin brother, but we had an accident. They all died and somehow I survived." Mark's heart pounded as the puzzle pieces began to fit together. "My mother gave me and my twin sister the same pendant when we were kids. It was supposed to keep us safe." A silence enveloped them as they processed this revelation. Mark looked into Sarah's eyes, seeing the same mixture of sorrow and wonder reflected at him. The pendants, seemingly ordinary objects, were now undeniable symbols of their shared past and lost loved ones. "Do you think?" Mark began, struggling to find the words. "Do you think our families knew each other?" Sarah's gaze drifted to the pendant. "It's possible. Maybe our mothers were friends, or maybe it's just a coincidence. But these pendants, they've connected us in ways we never understood before." They sat together, the weight of their shared histories pressing gently upon them. The pendants, which had once been symbols of protection from their mothers, now represented the inexplicable bond that had brought them together. Each pendant held the memories and love of their lost families, and now they served as a testament to the resilience and enduring spirit of both Mark and Sarah. In the weeks that followed, Mark and Sarah continued to uncover the intricate tapestry of their intertwined pasts. As they delved deeper into their histories, they stumbled upon a revelation that shook them to their core. Through old photographs and letters, they uncovered a secret long buried: Sarah's real identity. Mark had always struggled with fragmented memories from his childhood, particularly around the tragic accident that had claimed his family. The deeper he looked, the more he began to piece together a truth he had suppressed. He realized that he had a twin sister who had survived the accident, just like him. One evening, as they pored over a box of old family belongings, Mark found a photograph of himself as a child, standing next to a girl who looked strikingly like Sarah. His heart raced as he noticed the pendant around her neck. It was identical to the one Sarah wore. "Sarah," he said, his voice trembling. "Look at this photo. The girl looks like you." Sarah looked at the photograph and felt a wave of recognition and confusion. "But how?" "My parents, they died in the accident. I thought I had no family left." Mark's eyes filled with tears as he connected the final pieces. "I think you're my twin sister. The accident, it must have separated us. I must have blocked out the memory to cope with the loss." Sarah's mind raced as the truth began to sink in. The pendant she had cherished for protection, given by her mother, was the same as Mark's. The bond they felt wasn't just a mystical connection, it was the deep, unbreakable bond of family. The realization brought a mix of shock, sorrow, and relief. They embraced, understanding that their love and connection were not only fated but also rooted in a shared history they were just beginning to comprehend. As they navigated this newfound reality, Mark pieced together the clues and realized that Sarah was his twin sister, which explained why his blood was a perfect match for her transfusion. To confirm their relationship, they decided to undergo a DNA test. They sought help from a therapist to process the emotional and psychological impact of their discovery. They decided to keep their relationship platonic and focused on building a sibling bond that had been lost for so many years. Mark and Sarah continued to honor their parents' memories, grateful for the protection and love that had guided them to each other. The pendants, now understood as symbols of their familial connection, remained cherished keepsakes, representing the extraordinary journey they had undergone to find one another. Their story, once a tale of romantic love, transformed into a powerful narrative of lost siblings reunited by fate and the enduring strength of family. They embraced their new relationship with hope and determination, ready to face the future together, bound by a past they had finally uncovered and understood. Thank you for listening. If you want to listen to more stories or even know what happened to Chris, please comment below and please don't forget to like and subscribe.